Hello, and welcome to VR Club. My name is Ram, and in today's lesson, we will learn how to get a character to move in order to make our first maze game. Specifically, we'll learn how interaction in Unity works, how to control a player's movement, how to use ChatGPT when coding in Unity, and by the end of the lesson, we'll have built our first maze game. For this lesson, we'll need the following materials: a computer with internet access, Unity Hub and a Unity Hub editor, a YouTube account, and a ChatGPT account. In the previous lesson, we learned about world building. Now that we can add objects to our Unity scene, we're going to want to create experiences with interaction. Interaction is where a player provides an input, such as clicking a mouse, and gets an output, such as firing a cannon. But how does Unity know what inputs correspond to what outputs? Well, that's when a C# script comes in. Let's take a look. First, open Unity Hub and create a new project. Now that we have our new project open, you should see an empty scene. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a floor and a player. So if you want, you can pause the video and do that on your own, but I'm going to show you here. Floor as a plane. When adding the player, we want to create an empty game object called player so that we can add in the main camera and the player body as children of the player object. And essentially that means if we move the player, we move both the camera and the capsule together because they're in reference to each other. So now that we have this set up, make sure your camera is inside the capsule. So just see that looks like it's set up already, but drag it to about head level of the capsule and make sure your player is above the floor. And you can set this however you'd like. I'm going to make our floor bigger and so we have more room. Once you have your scene set up, go ahead and create a new folder titled Scripts. Open this and add in our C# script. This script will be used to make the player move, so I'll call it player movement. Go ahead and open it up. Once you've opened your script, you should see something that looks like this. This is a C# script, and you don't need to know how to write in C#, but it is important to know how to interpret C# code or understand every line of code before you put it into your project. These are the imports. You almost never touch them. They just get ready what you're using in your project. So the different Unity packages and the Unity tools are all in these lines. This is the start method, so as soon as your game starts, it runs all the code that's in here. So this can be used for declaring variables that you use in your update method. The update method is called every single frame, and so it means it loops through this, and you can use it for things you want your game to do continuously. For example, check if the person is pressing the W character and move the character on the screen accordingly. Now that we have an overview of an empty C# script, let's take a look at scripts that people have already written. So I just went into Unity and put in the character movement that I want. I chose a first person game because that's already 3D. And just go through and pick what you want. I'm going to go with this one. I recommend going through the entire video. I already have, so I'm just going to go to this code here, and I'm going to copy the code that this person used. And before I plug this code into my Unity game, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and ask it to interpret the code. So here it'll give us an explanation of each line and what it does. I recommend reading through it if you haven't. And also make sure you pick one and you understand what the code does before you copy and paste it. Like, watch this video and learn like what the code does. Go through a couple of them, pick what you want, and then when you have it, once you have it and you understand it, take the code, go to Unity, open the player movement script, go ahead and paste it in there, make sure you save it, load, go to your player, and put the script in here. Now, one of the reasons why it's important to interpret the code is so you know if there's anything that the code will put in there. For example, it added in a character controller. It requires it to move the player. It can do that with a rigid body as well. So just make sure that, just be aware of that and make sure you put in whatever it requires. So here it requires a player camera. Go ahead and save it. And just test the code. Once you've tested your script and you're happy with it, use the world building skills you learned last lesson to build a maze around your character. It can be as intricate or as simple as you'd like. I made this really basic one by copying and pasting a bunch of rectangles together, but feel free to take what you learned last lesson and use the asset store to make it look nicer. Right now, you won't be able to create something that allows your character to win the game. That's okay. Just create something that stands out at the end of the maze. And stick with me for the next lesson, where we'll learn beginner events, so we can interact with our maze and know when we reach the end. See you next time!